Today we finish up the Afterlife Q&A segment. And the question that I want to turn to, having talked about, all these things, eternity and death and judgment and resurrection and heaven and hell and all the questions about cremation and why does sin lead to death and everything else. Today the question I want to address is, so what? Like, why have we focused on this? Why all this peering ahead? Why all this discussion about heaven and hell? And I want to say that the answer is so that we will be shaped by hope. You may know that classically speaking, a comedy is not something that makes you laugh. A comedy is a story that ends well, and a tragedy is a story that ends poorly. And that in the classical setting, you don't know whether you're watching a comedy or a tragedy until the end because you don't know how it's going to end. Again, it's not about jokes. It's not about, laugh tracks. It's about how does this end? And as Christians, we need to understand that we are living in a comedy. Right? If you're in Jesus, then, as I've said before, God wins. Right? Death will be defeated. Sin will be no more. God is going to bring about ultimate justice. And we know how the game ends, so we don't have to be anxious if we fall behind. And one of the passages that, could have spent a lot of time on, could have preached on, is out of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And then he says this, which is, again, underlined and put in yellow highlight and put an exclamation point. Therefore, encourage one another with these words. Paul is writing to people who are facing despair. There's a lot of things going wrong. They're confused. They're wondering why God isn't making their life easier. They're wondering when Jesus is going to return. They're wondering all kinds of things. And he writes to them, and he reminds them of the end of the story. We are living in a comedy. It ends well because of who Jesus is. So we can relax. We can know that God will ultimately attend to all matters. We know that God will ultimately bring justice. We don't have to seek revenge because God ultimately will execute judgment. We know that all our needs are going to be met. So we're freed up today to live generously and to share what we have because all our needs, in the sense in which it counts, will be met. And we know that we can be shaped by a God of love who has cemented everything, and it ends well in Jesus. And so, why pay attention to the afterlife? Because it ought to shape how we live today, and it shapes it in a very joyful and hope-giving way. Hope you have joy and hope today. Have a good day.